All right, time to focus on the Big Ten Thursday. As always, you can feel free to comment down below with your thoughts and or questions on these two matchups I'm about to go through. First up, we've got Penn State hosting Ohio State. Note, this game is being played at Rec Hall and not the Bryce James Center. Don't really think that's going to be a big difference in the handicap. However, the Nittany Lions are out the 3-point favorites in this one. Line opened -2.5. A little bit of movement with the total as well, with one of the sharper books going to 149 from an opening number of 148.5. For those of you interested in watching this game, tips off 6:30 Eastern on FS1. No doubt which team comes in playing better basketball. Ohio State has won 2 straight. First upsetting Purdue, nationally ranked Purdue, on the road, and then they dismantled Iowa, 82-65 as 7-point favorites in Columbus 3 days ago. That was a rare blowout victory for a Buckeyes team whose previous 5 games have been decided by a total of just 9 points. Remember, prior to these back-to-back victories, Ohio State had lost 3 in a row. Defense was the key against Iowa, with the Buckeyes holding the Hawkeyes well below their scoring average by 20 points. In fact, the 65 points allowed were the fewest given up by Ohio State in a conference game all season. Now let's talk a little bit about Penn State, shall we? This is a team that, well, they've been on the wrong end of some close games as of late. Dropped 6 of 7 overall. 5 of those 6 losses have been by 6 points or fewer. The lone blowout loss came at Illinois, but Penn State has been a good team to bet on despite these close losses, at least recently. Nittany Lions have covered the spread each of their last 5 games. On Monday, they kept it close against Michigan on the road, lost by only 4 as 8.5-point underdogs. That was after losing by 1 at Iowa as 4-point dogs. Of course, if you want to bet on the Nittany Lions here, need them to not only win, but by more than 1 possession. I don't really want to do that. So let's just play the home team on the money line for a small amount. If you're juice tolerant, that is what I would recommend doing. If not, maybe just you can lay the 3, but just do it for a smaller amount. Again, these two teams have played so many close games. I would not be surprised if it's another close one, but I do expect Penn State to emerge victorious. Things can turn in an instant in college basketball, as you guys know. As I mentioned earlier, Ohio State was on a 3-game losing streak as recently as last week. Now they've won 2 in a row. I think it's Penn State. Their turn to right the ship. Note, Ohio State, per Haslametrics, has been one of the worst teams in the entire country on the road. Another key stat that has me wanting to fade the Buckeyes here is they have turned the ball over at least 14 times each of the last 7 games. So look for Penn State, led by Ace Baldwin and 5 other double-digit scorers, to get the win here. Again, I would play the Nittany Lions simply on the money line. Going to get to our second game in just a moment, but I wanted to take a minute here and, in full disclosure, I want to apologize for last night's 5% loss on Santa Clara. Tough to win a game when your team goes scoreless for 13 minutes. That was my first 5% loss of 2025. I was previously 3-0. The 5% plays usually do very well. Last night, it just wasn't our night. Fortunately, was able to mitigate the damage just a little bit with a 4% win on South Dakota. So still a winning January overall, 41-28-2 all sports run. And it just so happens today is your lucky day. The second game I'm going to be covering here is a client play. UCLA -4.5 versus Oregon. Let me get into the reasons why I like the Bruins in this spot. Now, if you've been following me for any length of time, you know I love taking unranked home teams as favorites against top 25 opponents. Going back to this past Saturday, this trend is a perfect 5-0 ATS. That's right. 5 straight unranked home favorites have covered the spread against top 25 teams. This includes Maryland over Wisconsin last night. I was on 2 of the previous 4 before that. Xavier over UConn on Saturday. And then we had that miraculous Arizona win over Iowa State on Monday. This particular instance, second night in a row, the situation comes up in the Big Ten. Oregon's number 16 in the country, but I've gone on the record, I feel on this show, not to mention the Power 5 and the Morning Wager, many times in saying the Ducks do not deserve to be in the top 25. Last time out, they suffered what inarguably was their worst loss of the season, 77-69 as 4.5-point favorites to lowly Minnesota. I was very, very surprised to see the Ducks drop just 1 spot in the latest AP poll after that defeat. Minnesota, not a good team. The fact that Oregon only dropped one spot after losing to them, a bit of a head scratcher, I think. Now, they are back. Oregon is to face a familiar foe in UCLA. These old Pac 12 rivals have already met once this season. And UCLA handed Oregon its first straight up loss, 73-71. That game was decided on a last second three. The Bruins were 3.5-point road underdogs going into that game. And the outright win made it 6 consecutive covers in the head to head rivalry. Now, since that time, UCLA has had its share of struggles. And we know head coach Mick Cronin has not hesitated to let us know about those struggles. But recently, the Bruins have begun to right the ship. They've won 4 in a row, including 82-76 at rival USC on Monday. Yes, Oregon's had 2 extra days to prepare here, and they have revenge. But again, I am not a believer in this Ducks team. It is telling that they are the underdogs despite that number 16 ranking. They trailed Minnesota, guys, 26-8, 7 minutes into the game. That's not good. And Oregon, my opinion, very lucky that they're not coming into this game on an 0-7 ATS losing skid, because their only cover in those 7 games came at Ohio State, a game where they trailed most of the way. Speaking of trailing most of the way, okay, we talk about falling behind big against Minnesota. We talk about trailing most of the way against Ohio State. Oregon is 6-2 straight up in games where they trailed at the half this year. That's very lucky and should not be happening. I think UCLA is the better team here. That's what my power ratings say. So lay it with the Bruins. Now, in addition to UCLA, I have an NBA play for tonight as well. You can get that by going to wt.buzz/BP right now. As a reminder, you go back to the 2023 finals, plus 45 units in, with all NBA selections, thanks to a 101-77-2 overall record. And if you're looking for even more free college basketball winners, and I'm sure you are, be sure to check out the Morning Wager, where I had a take on Cleveland State Fort Wayne. That's a Cleveland State team I caught in person last week. The Vikings are on the nation's 4th longest win streak, currently at 12 in a row. That's going to do it for me on this fine Thursday. Don't forget to smash that like button. Until next time, guys, let's cash some tickets.